I did go to Camp Kesem this summer, and I've been thinking about it ever since, and so I wrote a very short something to share with you. My father died, and then my friend died, kind of the same way. That's why I said I'd go to a fundraiser for a camp for kids whose lives have been rearranged by cancer. After the fundraiser, where they served a high-end tequila that hit me just right, I volunteered to spend 3 days at the camp. I got to the meadow right as a fight was breaking out. 85 campers and 51 counselors in a massive food fight. Ketchup and whipped cream and chocolate sauce. I learned later it was planned. Kids need to be kids, these kids especially, I was told. After the flying condiments, the little kids cleaned up for movie night, Finding Nemo. I settled in as Marlin was struggling to trust an easygoing SoCal sea turtle named Crush. I think he was the Spicoli of the East Australian current. And Marlin's saying, "How do you know when they'll be okay?" When they know, you'll know, you know? But Marlin doesn't know. That's the point. He's all fear and no faith. And who could blame him? The loss had been so great, and he doesn't yet know that children, and maybe all of us, can be damaged and heavy-hearted, but still buoyant and insightful and very useful to one another. The kids at camp know. They know all sorts of things, like the first morning over coffee crystals and a saccharin creamer product I hope never touches my lips again. I talked to a counselor, a giant rugby player whose nickname was Tiny. Tiny says, "This is a place where people know how sorrow works. There's no expectation of some linear progression from sadness to okayness." A darling counselor who goes by Cookie and aspires to be the Secretary of Education says, after the kids get used to not suppressing so much, you really hear it all. That must be so hard. What do you tell them, I ask. Oh, the other kids talk to them. They all jump in. They take care of each other. Lucy, who wants to be a vet or a pediatric surgeon, more or less the same thing, is wiser at 12 years old than everyone in this room. Like, I asked her if she was stranded on a desert island, what would she bring? And she said, a boat. And a solar cell phone. And her dad's watch. She's been a grown-up since she was 5, when her father died of pancreatic cancer that for many months looked like the flu. She told me there's no one right way to have a problem, to feel bad, to want something you can't have, and there's no one right way to feel better. You know a lot, I say. I like knowing stuff. I don't want to be a regular kid who doesn't know anything. I like knowing, and I like people who know. I tell her, I know. I just learned. My friend died. My dad, too. She loops her arm through mine. It's hard, isn't it? She says. There's so many weird reminders everywhere. Like, for me, pickles. Old Spice, I say. What about your friend? Tom Petty. Right about then, 12-year-old Lucy rubs my back, and her old lady kindness just undoes me. And when I start crying, she says what I wish everyone would say. Not I'm sorry, but I know. I know. Aren't those the two most beautiful words in the English language? I asked her if among her friends at home she's considered the wise one. Yeah, sorta. I asked her if those relationships are superficial. Not superficial, just limited. They won't always be, I tell Lucy. I'm 50, just about everyone's broken at my age. Though not around here. My friend Katie delivered a stillborn at 40 weeks. For almost a year after it happened, no one asked her for anything, which robbed her of purpose and identity and any chance at relief. Yeah, Lucy says, I get that. My other friend Katie, her dad left her mom, and her mom just totally fell apart. Katie knew what day their mortgage was due, starting in 5th grade. And by high school, she was writing the checks. And all that time, what really tore her up was how everyone in town looked at her with pity. Totally, Lucy says. Broken knows broken, and after a while it hardly matters what broke you. Chronic pain, depression, addiction, infertility, infidelity, there's so many ways to get hurt in this world. Do you think broken people are better? I asked Cookie on the last day. It's a big price to pay, she says, with tears suddenly in her eyes. But yes, I do. She told me about her boyfriend. He had life experience to match hers. Not the same, but equal in its toll. She couldn't quite imagine being with a regular person. A regular person. I hardly knew any. I don't even want to. Which brings me back to my friend. Her name was Liz. My friend was Liz Lotz. She was a private woman who kept her problems to herself. But then as her body broke, so did her facade. And she started to share what felt like everything with me. How little she weighed, how many liters of fluid they drained from her torso, how grueling her constipation, a certain relative who drove her crazy, how much she paid for a pair of heels that she never wore, how she wanted to die. I'd earned the intimacy by telling her about changing my father's diaper, and how, after he died, I actually considered taking his dentures because I loved his smile so much. I was lucky to know her, to know anyone that well. I promised I would not make her a hero, that I would remember her striving and self-doubt, the exasperation and remorse and crazy hope that made her human. And let me add now, I will take every complicated, beautiful thing you told me, Liz, and every conversation I have for the rest of my life will have a little bit to do with you and with Cookie, with Katie 1 and Katie 2, and Giant Tiny and Tiny Lucy, all of whom prove that we can be damaged and heavy-hearted, but still buoyant and insightful and very useful to one another, all of whom knew that after we break, there's nothing to be done but to put the brokenness to work. Thank you.